think I can go ahead and just get off it. That got it. Cool. Well, for those that are tuning in, I hope you guys are either loving this stuffy weather or just bearing through it like I am. But as yeah, last night it rained, and it still felt like somewhat stuffy. But hello, YouTube, and welcome all who are watching. I'm Jesse Tovar, and this is Afternoon Prose and Poetry at My Place Cafe. My place is located within Henstein Square, 2057 North Los Robles Avenue, Suite 10, Pasadena, California, at the corner of Woodbury and Los Robles. My place is open every day from 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Since My Place Cafe is still open during this live stream, stop by and get a coffee, a latte such as like a Mexican latte if you want, if you're indecisive about like having hot chocolate in this kind of gloomy weather, or maybe just a plain old latte. Above My Place Cafe is an artist loft run by Nina Lattes. Services this loft offers is makeup artistry, lashes, hyaluronic lip fillers, and airbrush tanning. Services are offered by appointment only. To schedule one, visit vagaro.com/artistloft. For more information, you may also contact Nina at 626-274-3064. And also above My Place Cafe in that same spot upstairs is Space Brownie Body Art, a tattoo and piercing studio run by Maurice Dean. Services are offered by appointment only. For more information, you can contact him on Instagram at spacebrownie_. So well, I'm gonna go through like a little backstory here on how this event is made to be today. So back in fall 2021, Kevin Dublin read at My Place Cafe with Arthur Kazakian. Dublin then piloted a reading series titled The Living Room at Manny's in San Francisco. I saw pictures on the Living Room's IG about their first ever event back in fall 2021. I went on the Living Room's website. I even saw the highlights video on YouTube. The lineup was Catherine Wadall Takata, Carla Brunridge, who I know from Nervous Ghost Press's Writing for Life, Giovanna Lomato, who I saw 2 weeks ago for some Spectrum publishing events, McAllen, Myra Jeffra, and one of today's featured poets, Kevin Madrigal Galindo. Around November, Kevin Dublin suggested I sign up for Nomadic Press's Get Lit. I did, and when the flyer came out, I see that Kevin Madrigal Galindo is also on the card. So I was actually, excited and nervous at the same time to be sharing new work at the time in this particular event. After the event, I was just happy to be on the same event with someone I saw in the Living Room. A few months later, I decided to reach out to Kevin Madrigal Galindo. We spoke about what today would entail, and he suggested a friend of his and fellow poet, Randy James, read too. And I was like, okay. Soon after, I took a trip to the Bay Area because I was a feature in the Living Room. This happened after I asked Dublin if I could read in the series. During my weekend trip up there back in February when I read, I went to Medicine for Nightmares, finally met Josea Luisa Derte, and bought Hella Mexican and Shifters. Yeah, these two chapbooks from Nomadic Press. And right now I'm gonna have Randy James go first. Before he does, I am gonna speak for a little bit about Shifters. So the great Harriet Molen, who wrote Sleeping with the Dictionary, says that Randy James writes of passage for a tough and tender son, brother, lover on a journey to happily ever after. James has a deep gratitude to several who helped mold his collection, including another great, F. Douglas Brown. If you haven't seen his My Place Cafe author reading back in February, please do. James also shouts out several of his eyes, hearts, and minds, including today's other featured poet, Kevin Madrigal Galindo. After reading An Ode to a Godflower, I tried to find out what a godflower is. I got different descriptions, such as a picture of a breed of weed. Le Petit Mort appears to have multiple English meanings too. Reason I bring that up is because the first stanza seems to use one meaning that goes with the word quotidian, also a word with a few somewhat synonymous meanings, and the term uncación. So after finding another meaning for fairy, the first stanza could be saying weakening of consciousness, relief from the mundane, you transport the self, make a body a box for release. The first stanza in the title poem, Shifters, paints a picture of a pedestrian walking about as the sun reflects on pedestrian signs, slightly obstructing the pedestrian's eyesight. When people ask me why I write poetry, I don't feel like I give good answers. However, Randy James turned that question to a full poem. With all that said, LaTanya Smith, the owner of My Place Cafe, and I welcome Randy James.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you, Jesse, for that intro. That was really fabulous. And thank you for organizing this event. And thank you to My Place Cafe, and also to Kevin for suggesting that I read for today. So I did want to read some things from my chapbook Shifters, which is currently out on Nomadic Press. And I also want to read some new things that I'm working on as well. So for the Shifters section of my reading, I'll start with the first poem that's in the book. It's called Placements. And Placements is kind of a meditation on masculinity. Okay, so this is Placements. Aggressive men live on the reverse end of my table. Indeed, before hair grew in new places, before their square jawlines, our chairs took far ends of the long wood. My dreams end with a remove from the locker room. Essentialism agrees my cells be kept within a frame dictated by my color relative to Mother Earth. How girded the heart must be to withstand a man's open smile or his pouty lips, his toss of a napkin. I am invisible, masked between table and chair. Their chuckling is jail, their brother words sharp with exclusion. They say kill the difference, looming from a lisp and a limp wrist, kill the secret of possessing joy. We barred any and all matrons, there is no refuge or respite with us here, Lord, never a man. I am made nervous, keep my head bent, obsequious. Secretly, I sway from canticles in the drag of Basso Profundo. In the pressing dinner arrangement, quagmire abides in the valley of the shadow of dinner plates and reservations. I stare at placements, lost among forks for salad or fruit. Sweat floods the trenches of my fingerprints, our image in cutlery, traitorous. I have not lifted my head. I locate in the unbent pitches of virile voices, crumbs caught in mustaches. Our verity lives in lapels, under china and the flirt of shined shoes, but this whispering is nearly half done. For the rest, I will lean into these xeric conditions, mistake ambience for ultraviolet rays, assume yapping is the work of revival. I will not leave my place until 0 hour, when all aggression returns to the alpha and omega. Thank you. So that was Placements. And the next poem that I'm going to read is called My Family Remains, which is actually, well, I should say this actually too. Placements is a abecedarian poem. So abecedarians work where you basically go through the letters of the alphabet, and every first word of each line is basically alphabetical. So that's how Placements worked. And My Family Remains is actually a bop. And let's see if I can explain the bop really quickly. Bops have choruses in between each verse, and the verses are 6, 8, 6. And the third verse usually has like a turn at the end. But this one is about family, and it's called My Family Remains. My brother taught me how to walk. There's a Polaroid as evidence, and by channeling God, I could read early, speak on R-rated realities, like the yes flung from my 2-year mouth as we flew from daddy to mama's. Almost impossible to do reciting the makings of you. I don't know the origin story, what a seminary girl from Rio Abajo saw in a soldier boy from Bama Sticks. I know the fruit of their first conception is prophesied diamond, and I am the fruit of after. Twinkled in the wake of the spaded trail. The way my mother tells it, God gave the okay to have me, but to my child's ear, I am thought and afterthought. Almost impossible to do, reciting the makings of you. That's a lie. I see Mama's fall in the picture of Papa. In it, he is in a barber's throw, sporting an immaculate afro, prominent eyes, easy smile. Daddy fell for the wine, Mama's akimbo stance. I have seen that photo too. In turn, I am the final evidence, the silver-born bay that lay in Earth's cradle. So that was My Family Remains. And the next poem that I'm going to read is actually a pantun that I've kind of restructured into a dance floor because this poem is actually about a club that used to exist in New York that's no longer open. It's called Escuelitas. And this poem is in celebration of that. It's called Clubland. After checking, I noticed the iPod missing from my coat pocket. I step onto the floor with no ballroom pedigree, leave with little fanfare. When a queen is a non-event, that, children, is what we call tragedy. Our bracelets and boas bespeak black magic, our magic shablams on Father Time. I step up to the floor with no ballroom pedigree, leave with little fanfare. Minorities do not fit into the gentrification plans of the city. Our bracelets and boas bespeak black magic, our magic shablams on Father Time. The girls lip sync to a T, Vitolo will cut you if you act funny. Minorities do not fit into the gentrification plans of the city. Slinky and thongs, Long Island in hand, the go-go boys are kinetic. The girls lip sync to a T, Vitolo will cut you if you act funny. That front on the train is a facade. I know a you that lives in the lens of an icon. Slinky and thongs, Long Island's in hand, the go-go boys are kinetic. A queen reveals his blowout, soft hair, turning like a windmill. That front on the train is facade. I know a you that lives in the lens of an icon. Classics turn the houses out, feeling cunts raison de terre. After checking, I noticed the iPod missing from my coat pocket. Thank you. So that was Clubland. And I'll do two more from Shifters. This one here is called Diaphanous, and it's in tribute to a friend of mine who passed away early. His name is Derek. And this is the poem in celebration of him. Diaphanous. 1. She is not what I expect, dressed as if she forgot the day. She approaches the dais, the mother nurse of Derek Ford's final days. The terse underline she draws by leaving it in Jesus' hands fills the saints, but the rest, his favorite ex-lover, fills in, telling us Dee's favorite word was diaphanous. 2. Alvarado Street does not waver. His bachelor pad residing over MacArthur Park, where my t-shirt self-collapsed and Hebrew flashed the walls, does not waver either. All the piss I learned could relieve my athlete's foot, all the rose oil spritzes and mistaken chemet, the loop of in a beautiful place out in the country, they waver not. 3. Once upon a summertime, we ate an eighth of mushrooms, bared our bellies in makeshift midriffs and took an Alvarado promenade. In Ross dress for less, we, taller and darker than the Indios in the aisles, become chocolate y café. At MacArthur Park, Kovicha and Svelte, Derek walked in and out the frame, befitting the stomach swell. He owned himself silly in the echo of the underpass ever after. And the last poem that I'll be reading from Shifters is called Suede Interiors. And Suede Interiors is kind of just an observational poem about the neighborhood that I grew up in. So this is Suede Interiors. It's good to have fruits in the house. You have fruit when you're not poor. With an island milk, my mother wipes dust from her home's never wilting flora. I store away the grocer's plastic, rip and trash the holy bags. The rice taps, filling its container as neighbor's car idles. Driver outside coughs a long time. Choosy lover mingles with neighbor's Easter barbecue. From their porch, I love you. Be careful. Don't forget them cigarettes. You know I won't. Driver and friend lead to a saxophone speech, Mr. Gabe radiating, blessing the chassis. Smoke in Arabic numbers and Kelly Blue Book say silver, second place, is the best car color to buy. But them burgundy interiors and car phones, Ultima sunroofs and dangerous skies, them revving Mazda RX-7s, them woofers, them hopeful fruits beg to differ. Thank you. So those are the poems that I'll share from Shifters. And as I said earlier, I'd like to share a couple of new poems with you. So this one here, the first one we're going to share with you, I was kind of unsure about the title because it's still a work in progress. But this one's called Cookie Full of Arsenic. Maybe I should offer a trigger warning for abuse. Okay, Cookie Full of Arsenic. Your father liked to fuck with your reality on the daily, especially in his T-Bird on the drive to judo tournaments. What kind of bad wisdom I cannot say. You do your best to wall in the shape, but we joyride that same T-Bird in the thick of adolescence, hurling hollowed out bottles through clear car windows. Stalk the halls of your neighborhood high school as the night burns both ends. Years, I hold you in a flux of mixed signals as you burst from the bomb some girl left in her exit. Another Wes Anderson film on the sliding glass. You say you want everyone to love you, and I don't have enough heart to tell you that's impossible. But you continue to give your best to Tony Curtis in Sweet Smell of Success, lamenting the ban on indoor cigarettes, getting the time of day from brassy comic types. I can only fathom the price in your mind, never bending, lovely fingers running through your black hair, never ending. Never met a river in a bottle you didn't like, but call it luck what's kept you so long. Our city's river is but a trickle. There's a swagger in your stagger that trips the latch of this blood's rhythm that fucks my reality, renders me strange in a house of my own design. Leaving, you don't turn. Still a coda, a boy's last words before the man he calls dad. Still a coda, presided the silence. Thank you. So that was Cookie Full of Arsenic, and this next poem is called, penultimate poem, is called Children of David. The diner we dine in is packed with familiar dead laughter, and outside, roughnecks are in flux with the wilders of lace and lipstick. Outside, rusty rails stack high above the eager lines of youth in their best apocalyptic fits, waiting for an open door. These children of sound systems burn bright, old as the damaged air they've inherited. They've inherited a trap by fact of birth, blood pumping in the unpredictable panorama of the moment as my blood jumps for a taste of violence. Worn to a shadow from the cast of high-rises, we are children of bondage under green thumb rot. Green God presiding, eyesores, steely, metal middle fingers fucking a falling sky. We don't need stars, we have hands. Every gesture, a spell, a key, every key's a lock undone. We don't need salutations, we need retribution. Yes, as hungry lovers of the word break bondage to become bonded, moving in silence but never quiet. Third eye guiding our 5 smooth stones. 5 smooth stones for your green God. So that was Children of David. And this last poem that I'm going to read is inspired by Kathy Park Hong, and it's called East Beach. Everywhere, egresses, earrings emphasizing earlobes, empire elaborately ending, embroidered embryo emerging, extreme, emphatic, emperor, evolve, evade embarrassment, express empathy, enlarge everyone's earthly enjoyment, encourage encyclopedic encounters, ethereal exposure, embrace encores, endow electric steam, exile evil economizers, engendering elite encroachment, eliminate egotists, exalt ebony ecologists, erase elliptical emptiness, entertain entirety, emperor, explode every effigy. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Randy, excellent. Thanks for reading, especially the new stuff, because whenever I like putting together these kind of readings, I always kind of like think of it because I know some people say like, poets are also musicians. It kind of makes me think of like of a hat where a performer is reading stuff that's been already out there for a minute, plus performing new stuff that people can just be excited about. And I'm sure more and more people, as they rewatch this, will be excited about like where these poems will end up. So yeah, that's awesome. So real quick here, I know Nomadic Press is doing this 50 for 15 promo. This is to like celebrate the opening of their like storefront on 57 Post Street in San Francisco. So to make that promo go on full force, if you're in the San Francisco area, do buy shifters at their little post up over there. All right, so let me see. Going back to what I'm gonna say here. I wish my phone didn't just. Okay, there we go. So I'm not going to speak for a bit about Hella Mexican. This is another book you should buy at that post front as well. One of last month's My Place Cafe featured writers, Alan Chazaro, says in his praise for Hella Mexican that Kevin Madrigal Galindo asked real shit. What are the barriers and limitations, but also bridges of language? This is a imagining of ourselves, a resistance against erasure. Josea Luisa Derte, who I also saw read at Dryland's Future Now, also has a review blurb on Hella Mexican's back cover. In the acknowledgements section, Galindo credits Randy James, A.A. Vincent, and Alan Chazaro as pillars in his growth as writer. Since Galindo has mentioned on Twitter he reimagines food since he's a cook, the line in Gracias, which is, I'll always shout gracias on my way out of any restaurant, is very fitting to Galindo's personality as a cook. In De Nada, one of the stanzas says, I say gracias to the cook who left behind family to nourish me. He says De Nada. At the end of this poem, it says this, just as once, I hope they will say, para ti, mijo, de todo. It makes me wonder if there's a preferred way to say you're welcome in Spanish. Then again, I'm not so fluent in Spanish, even though I'm born here and have Mexican and Salvadorian parents. I did enjoy an ode to Jack in the Box, 2 for 99 cents tacos, for it conveys the influence of advertising as a cultural study in English studies. Too bad those tacos are almost like $3 like nowadays. Since like Water for Chocolate by Laura Escoval and Natalie Santer-Sapico's Lima Limon, I enjoy written pieces centered around recipes. With Galindo being a cook, his book has one of those recipe poems titled Enchiladas Verdes, a Recipe for Tradition. This, to me, is a prose poem that has ingredients and directions in bold to indicate sections on the piece for the page. With the section that isn't bolded, which says, choose your own journey, recipe A for the traditional chicken version, or recipe B for your plant-based version. I think when this piece is read live or virtually, it lends itself to audience participation, because you can either get like one part of the poem and maybe not hear the other. I don't know. But with all that said, please welcome Kevin Madrigal Galindo.
Ooh, thank you so much, Jesse. Thank you for that introduction. Can y'all hear me all right? Cool. Yeah, my name is Kevin Madrigal Galindo. I'm excited to be here with y'all. I'm excited to be sharing the virtual stage with Randy. Yeah, so I'm gonna read some poems. And funny enough, I was planning on reading Gracias and De Nada, so I'm gonna start off with those two. This is my book, Hella Mexican. It's out now with Nomadic Press. So is Shifters by Randy James. Look at how nice those books look together. They could be yours. Just go to the Nomadic Press website. You'll find all of our stuff. This is from my book. This is Gracias. We're masters of illusion and scholars of mimicry. Nothing too far-fetched to interpret. Call this blood, O negative. Add to it brown skin sweat and border-crossed tears. Mix it all up. What do you get? Whatever your heart desires. Fatty tuna nigiri with Valentina on the side, we got you. Fried chicken and waffles with Tabasco sauce, we got that too. Handmade tagliatelle in a rich uni cream with freshly crumbled chile de árbol, no doubt. Don't even ask. Indulge at the altar of brown labor. I'll always shout gracias on my way out of any restaurant. Undoubtedly, someone will respond. De nada. To the people who I say gracias to, I owe todo. I owe everything. My privilege was built on their sore, tired, and persistent backs. I say gracias to the cook who left behind family to nourish me. He says de nada. I say gracias to the cashier at the bodega who works overtime to provide me with affordable groceries. She says de nada, mijo. I say gracias to the grandfather bus boy who brings us coffee right as we sit down, decaf, just how my mom likes it. He says, no hay que, de nada. My privilege is the product of their strife, of their dedication to providing a better life. Sacrificed all just to realize a dream that they themselves will never live, but I will. So I want to say gracias to the cook, the cashier, the busboy, to the janitor, the baker, the truck driver, to the hostess, the shopping cart collector, the dishwasher, to the underpaid essential worker, to the immigrant that has endured shitty jobs, to my apa, my ama, my carnal, and my carnala. I want to say gracias. And just this once, I hope they will say, para ti, mijo, de todo. Thank y'all. It's been a while. It's been a minute since I've read these poems, some of these poems out loud. This book came out in February, March, something like that. And I think for the first couple months after it came out, I was doing a lot of readings. And then, just life gets busy, you do stuff. So it's been a minute since I've really done a lot of reading. So thank you again, Jesse, for letting me and Randy share the stage and read here. I'm going to read another piece from my book. This piece is called The Rhythm of the Wind. Song sparrows forced to course correct real time to get from A to B. If you gaze upon the earth, you'll see a scape of green and world milkweed flowers bloom, dancing to the rhythm of the wind. A striped licorice black and golden yellow bee lands on milkweed petals, hopping from one beautiful blossom to another in an improvised choreography. It takes a moment to dip every new partner lightly. They will spring back tall when the bee is gone. A strong gust announces itself, brushing the trees. This wind has traveled by ocean. You can tell the way it uses forest to mimic the sound of receding waves on a shimmied sand. The trees will pay no attention to the syncopation of birds chirping. Instead, they will slow dance the day away to the rhythm of the wind. Thank y'all. That was a fun poem that I got to write when I was on a little writing residency out in Knoxville, Tennessee. So it was really cool. And I think, I think something that I think a goal of mine as a writer for sure is to keep in mind the realities that we're living, especially as people who identify as BIPOC. And so I think it also can be an act of resistance to just focus on some other shit. And that was my goal with that poem. I just want to write about nature. And sometimes it's hard to do that because it feels like there's so many other things to write about, but it is important to remember we have this beautiful way of writing and we can use it to describe whatever we want. Yeah, and I'm gonna read a couple of new poems. I'll come back to the book to close out. but I did want to read a couple of new poems. Yeah, I'll start. I'm gonna drink a little bit of tea. Yeah, this is a poem that I felt inspired to write after reading some of Diane de Prima's Revolutionary Letters. It's a really incredible collection of poems. It's just like one of the OG beat poets that wrote these revolutionary letters and put them together. So this is If the Word Still Has Power, after Diane de Prima. There are words that when whispered are more powerful than the ratchet on a pair of handcuffs. If the word still has power today, we may live long enough to see America crumble, to see the Bezos bozos of the world ripped apart by the lowly poor who created their billions from crumbs, to see every cage, jail cell, and detention center melt into the ground and become cemeteries dedicated to all the time lives lost, to see the people rise up with power, divine from a radical organizing practice, and take this country, turn it into a garden for all. I'm afraid if the word still has power, there will come a day where America will try to take the word away, to use it against us. And it is very critical to understand that if this ever happens, we must remember that our fists will always have power. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Yeah, I'm gonna chug along. I've got another new poem to read, and then I think I'll close off with another poem or two from the book. This one doesn't necessarily have a title, like the first line is a title, so I'm just gonna get into it. The Mexico-born Mexicans don't want anything to do with the Chicanos. The American-born Mexicans are Chicano curious, but their parents have told them to stay away from political affiliations. There are Spanish people masquerading as Latinos, and there are full-blooded Latinos unsure of their identity because they don't speak Spanish. Latinos fight one another over suffix variation of -x, -e, and -at. Latinx is criticized by the older generation for sounding silly, where Latin-at is criticized by the newer for not being inclusive enough. Most people in Latino America prefer Latine because it sounds more natural than Latinx. There are people who pronounce Latinx as Latinx, and we call those people gringos. I, of course, identify as Chicanx, but if my abuela heard me say that, she'd ask, ¿Qué es eso? The Chicanos are trying to unify the Mexico and America-born Mexicans, but saying you're Chicano may garner a foul look. At the very least, being Chicano is better than being a gringo. Though, once gringos become self-aware enough to call themselves Gringx, we'll all probably be fucked. Thank you, thank you. Yes, I'm gonna return to my book. Yeah, I'm just gonna flip through and find one that sounds like I feel like reading right now, because I had written some down, but I'm like, I don't want to read those right now. I'm not feeling it. I'll read this one. This is Sana Sana Colita de Rana, Remedios for the Common Cold, as told by your tia. 1. Jugo de limón y miel. 1 part lime juice from the patio tree. Bájalo con el gancho. 1 part honey, natural, from the cremeria, down the block, sold by the litro, real, thick, opaque. consume by the spoon. Dos, una chamarra y un suéter. I don't give a damn if it's 80 degrees outside. No salgas al frío, ¿oíste? 3, no comes en la calle. You don't know if they're using dirty oil. Mejor comes en casa. 4, bebidas tibias. Room temperature or warm. Se están chingando las cervezas muy heladas, ¿verdad? 5, antibióticos. The doctor says it's a virus. Go back and get some anyway. 6, no te sales después de bañarte. Your hair will catch el frío and keep you sick. 7, no sales de la casa. Better yet, stay in bed. Descanse, mijo. Rest. Thank you all. Shout out to my tia Chelo in Mexico. Yeah, the Enchiladas Verdes, A Recipe of Tradition. It's definitely a poem that I like to read, but it's a little long, so I'm gonna skip it for now. But that means you just have to buy the book. Look at me being a good promoter and everything. I'm gonna read. I think I might finish off with Mexican Hell. Yeah. I'm going to finish off with Mexican Hell, which is a poem right after Mexican Heaven. I'm just going to read Mexican Hell today. This will be my last poem. In Mexican Hell, tacos are $6 each, not including tax or tip, and they're all dry-ass pollo asado. The mariachi is out of tune, and the lead singer forgot the lyrics to El Rey. It's painful. Your suegra is always by your side, scratchily whispering in your ear, "You'll never be good enough." In Mexican Hell, you can still have pan dulce, but it's fabuloso flavored conchas that are made by a woman who gentrified the old panaderia back to heaven. Mexican Hell has always just run out of tequila, and the avocados are eternally unripe, hard as rocks. The frijoles too watery, the tortillas too dry. Still, you eat and fake a smile to your tia, who then makes you wash all the dishes, desgraciado. In Mexican Hell, your neighbors are always asking you to make them horchata and to learn how to speak English. The only upside to Mexican Hell is that the salsas are so damn picosas, they make you numb. It helps pass the time so no one tells the devil. A white man atop a skyscraping pile of cartel money, dressed in gold-trimmed suit and his Sunday's best toupee. Turns out Mexican Hell is actually America. We've been living here all along. And that's all for me. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Randy, for reading before. I loved hearing your new poems as well.
So for those that get Hella Mexican, you will see how that these poems are actually translated in Spanish too. And I believe Kevin says that these ones he wrote himself in Spanish, right? They weren't written by a translator, right?
Yeah. Some of the poems are in English and Spanish, and those I wrote in Spanish with the help of some family. I give them shout outs in the back too.
For sure, that's cool. Yeah, this is awesome. And they're very identical and stuff like that. Cause like sometimes I've noticed that when other people like translate like somebody else's poem into like, let's say Spanish, there's some variations and some differences. I picked that up, like, for example, on a poem by Brianna Munoz. where the topic was about like coffee beans, and there was like slight differences, but both poems in English and Spanish are pretty cool. So, oh yeah, one thing I want to tell you guys, what I just realized as of recently, as I've seen pictures of like the founder of Nomadic Press, J.K. Fowler. So the day that I went to Medicine for Nightmares, I didn't realize this until again recently that I actually did meet J.K. Fowler. He just happened to be there that day, like when I just walked in the store, like hanging out with Josiah and somebody else, like outside in the front with a dog. And my first impression, or all I said to him, which probably isn't that, which I don't know, I didn't realize he was like this big person, that I just said that he looks like a customer from my place cafe. And I'm like, I didn't realize that that's who that was. So JK for watching. Again, it was an honor to like realize who you are. Let's see here. And then one thing I've noticed about you guys, that you guys travel a lot between the East Coast and West Coast. So did you guys meet like in the Bay Area, or where did you guys meet?
Rand, did you point at me?
I did.
I guess, yeah, I'm happy to try to answer this question, at least from my perspective. I mean, Randy James is definitely one of my favorite poets. Also one of my favorite poems that's continually writing itself. No, I'm just playing. Randy and I met, long story short, I was a chef, or like the head cook for this nonprofit restaurant in San Francisco, and we opened up a cafe, and Randy was one of the baristas at that cafe. This was early on. I think I had only been writing poetry for like a year and a half, not that long. I was very much like a baby poet. And so I asked Randy, like, hey, what do you do besides being a barista? Is this your full-time thing? And Randy was like, oh, I'm a student. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, where do you go? What are you doing? He's like, oh, grad school at USF. And I was like, oh, cool. What are you studying? He's like, oh, I'm getting an MFA. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know. I feel like Randy maybe expected me to stop asking questions, but I was like, no, I want to know what you're doing. And so I found out that Randy was doing an MFA in poetry. And me, honestly, I feel like now knowing Randy and knowing his work, if I would have known like how legit his stuff was, I feel like I would have been intimidated to ask or to even share my stuff. But I think sometimes that's the beauty of being like not ignorant, but like just like oblivious, or just not caring about whatever like customs and practices in the literary world. Like I was just like, yo, can I send you some of my poems? I want to read some of your poems too. And so we had a beautiful friendship, and like writer colleague relationship start then. That's how we met.
Nice, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
I don't really have any much else to add. I mean, I think Kevin just kind of articulated it just really, really well. Yeah. I will say though, I was a little thrown off though when you first started asking, because I was like, wait, this guy's interested in it. So it really just kind of threw me off a little bit. But I'm glad that you asked, and that we have come to know each other.
Cool. And what else was I gonna say? One comment I have real quick about Kevin's work and why I'm glad he read today too is because whenever I hear him read, is like there's always like a comedic element to like how he like performs his poem. So that's what I appreciate. And what I like about Randy James, I just like, again, I like all the formalities of like poetry, and the reason I like the formalities of poetry is because I always try to emulate it whenever I read poems like on the internet, or just looking at people that are in MFA programs. Like for example, one person who I learned from a lot and who has graduated from an MFA program like 2 years ago. His name is Andrew Liu. So that's why it's awesome to like just be in that kind of cohorts of like creative writings in that sort of a sense. I probably should have done the MFA first, but you know, it's what it is. Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. One question I do have in particular for Nomadic Press, because this is like the second time I've been exposed to like, what's it called? A reading guide. I've seen a reading guide before in like another book from a different press, but one thing I noticed that's unique about these reading guides is that they seem more personable, and they seem like they're like, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to put it. Like they're put together by the authors themselves. So what's it like, I guess, did you guys put together the reading guide stuff yourself for this?
Yeah, we did. I think that's one of the really cool parts about being a part of Nomadic Press is that that's one of the stipulations, at least as far as chapbooks go, is that you have to create the introduction. And so basically kind of like all the parts, but also the questions afterward too. You have to come up with those. Yeah, I was a little intimidated at first, to be honest, because I just, you want to make sure that you have questions that have meat, and will cause the reader to think a little more deeply, or even like write works of their own. So.
Nice, nice, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if anything, the only thing that I'll add is I think I was a little intimidated too, but it turned out for me to be like a fun exercise, just because I think like as a poet, you're always looking for prompts or things to help inspire something to get you writing. So I think it's cool to like just take that role and yourself like, oh, how could I use this to try to inspire somebody to write something?
Oh, for sure, yeah, because I've always thought of those reading guides because I've seen them in like other like bigger like poetry collections, like from like, for example, Norton. I think that's something like, I always thought that was like something like an editor would write for like a well-known poet or like a poet that's been dead for many years. So this is really cool that you guys are like putting the work into like trying to give other poets or other people that are reading the book like ideas to like formulate their own stuff. So I find that pretty cool. Nice, yeah. Monica, I'm glad you actually joined us today. Did you have any questions for Randy or Kevin, or any just compliments?
Yeah, Jesse, thanks for checking. I was just wondering, wanted to check with both Randy and Kevin. What is it? What is it in your writing that seems to consistently inspire you to keep going?
Randy, would you like to?
Yeah, whoever would like to take the question first.
I think I'll go first. I think, I first started writing as a way to express myself because I felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to about what I was feeling or what I was experiencing. And I feel like my writing hasn't changed that much from that original intention to express myself, and also to take witness of what's going on in the world and try to document it in the most honest way possible. Yeah, I will say though that it's really interesting how I guess things can change, because lately I've been feeling like I wouldn't say less inspired, but I think kind of everything outside of writing kind of gets in the way of things sometimes. So you have to adjust your perspective, I guess, it's like as towards how you're writing and what entails all of writing. Because I mean, kind of going off on a tangent here, but like even the idea of like editing too is a form of writing. Yeah, totally. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Randy. It puts things into perspective, and I really loved that what you said about adjusting your perspective, and also your work reflects, both of your works in fact have this commonality, I would say, where it reflects honesty and lays the truth out in such a vivid real in real context. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And Kevin, the same question for you. What inspires you and keeps you going?
Yeah, I think the parts that Randy said that resonated with me was definitely like just having it all come from a place where you want to express yourself or you want to express some ideas that you have in your head that you just need to get down somewhere. Um, I think I also feel super similar that like lately I haven't been feeling as much like inspiration or motivation, which definitely does change the way that you go about writing. But I think the things that always like, inspire me and always ground me and always um, remind me, I guess, why I'm doing this and why I want to continue writing. I think one is like my peers, like listening to Randy read poetry. I know my homie AA Vincent, it might be out in the virtual audience, and that they have a book coming out next month. They constantly inspire me. Alan Chastado, those three people like really have inspired me a lot and given very useful and helpful both like feedback, mentorship, and just friendship. So I think it really does come down to like the community, the friends. Yeah, and then honestly, even like just reading my own poems. I feel like reading my own poems, especially when I get to read them out loud, it's such a trip. It's such a cool experience. It's like this weird thing where I like it feels like these like letters that I wrote myself, that I like my past self wrote to my future self about things that like I just don't want Kevin to forget or things that I want to be recorded. So yeah, weirdly enough, I guess reading some of my old stuff and just being like, oh, I remember the Kevin that wrote that, and like I'm very proud and appreciative that Kevin existed.
It is a wonderful way to reconnect with yourself, I think. And one of the things when you were offering some of your pieces, Kevin, I loved the fact that you said that you love writing pieces which are where you draw from nature and where you feel that, oh, why not write about nature? And that reminded me of a few lines from Hanif Abdul Rakib, the poet, who mentioned one of his pieces opens up with that people are asking me, how can you write about flowers in a time like this? And it's really cool. It's very evident from your work as well, how community inspires you. But at the same time, it's wonderful, the work that both of you are doing. And thank you so much for the reading today. Not tonight, today. Really inspiring. And thanks, Jesse, for such a wonderful gathering.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you so much for asking those questions, Monica. I'm glad that you're actually able to ask like right here and there. And I do want to thank you again, Kevin and Randy, for reading for My Place Cafe. I'm glad this event is now a reality, and I'm glad that we got to, I guess, show and kind of show people that what Nomadic Press is for those that don't know, that are just stumbling like randomly on YouTube. And yeah, I'm glad this happened, and just want to say that actually what I'm going to say to close it off is that just enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy Grandparents' Day, which that's like a new thing. Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess if you want to, you can get them a gift, like both of them or something like that.
Both of them, or what if they're dead though? I'm just kidding.
Well, I know, right? Maybe
Then
just visit the gravesite.
yeah, visit the gravesite, bring some flowers, write a poem.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And then for what's going on with My Place Cafe, next weekend there is a macaroon pop-up at 9 a.m. by Cat's Macaroons. This is the second time that we've had a pop-up for macaroons, and the reason it's kind of cool for My Place Cafe in particular is because they did a little like commercial when they first opened, and the videographer just decided to throw in a macaroon next to like a shot with like one of the cups that's at the cafe, so that's pretty nice. So that's what's going on next Saturday, and just yeah, if you want to keep following Kevin and Randy, just follow them on their Instagram. I think Kevin's Instagram is K Madrigal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Randy's Instagram is Randy what is it?
Grandma Jam.
Yeah,
Martin.
there you go. For sure.
Yeah.
And just yeah, because again, the new stuff that they read today, I'm looking forward to seeing it in the future, and like if it appears in like a anthology somewhere or like in their future books. that's pretty cool. And yeah, again, thank you all for tuning in on YouTube.